All right, welcome to Sights on the City with the Clarion Content, where we curate your city. This is my co-host, Justin Laidlaw, sitting in for Chris Vitiellois.
This week we talked to Cicily Mitchell of the Art of Cool project. We have a great show for you guys. That'll be April 24th, 25th, and 26th, so don't wait to get your tickets.
Anthony will be here on Friday.
Okay.
So we're trying to get him over there to maybe jump on stage with Robert. Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, there's going to be a lot of that going on.
Yeah, it is going to be a full weekend, no doubt. And I believe we are recording now with our good friend Cicily Mitchell from the Art of Cool Fest. We're in the Wayback Machine together. My co-host over there, Justin Laidlaw. You'll frequently hear him on our podcast. You'll see him rocking those runaway clothes like he is right now and working it for the American Underground. And we're delighted to have Cicily on because the Art of Cool is right around the corner, and there is so much to the Art of Cool. I don't know how early Josh will cut you in on our conversation, but Cicily's been giving us the inside story, and I think, it's really a legacy kind of thing. I know you guys are in, forward-thinking mode so much that you're always thinking about the future, but maybe we could talk a little bit about what's the timeline like if somebody's looking at the very first couple of things that are happening on Friday. How quick is this all starting? You were just saying Anthony Hamilton will be here Friday.
Yeah, it really starts around noon on Friday, and that's when we'll do our kickoff kind of party down at Durham Central Park, and it'll go from noon to about 4:30. And so you can grab lunch with the trucks out there. You'll be able to hear some local bands. Kids Notes will be out there.
Oh, cool. We love Kids Notes.
Yeah, NCCU's Jazz Ensemble, Reese Palmer, and a few more locals will be kind of kicking it off for us on Friday.
That's awesome. And it kind of really tells several of the sub-conversations that we are already having about how, you've done such a job for involvement. Here are all these elements, NCCU's involved in your kickoff. Philanthropy is involved in your kickoff through Kids Notes. The food trucks are involved in your kickoff. And I think, that's one thing people really look at you, honestly, is kind of a model of how you've been able to unite constituencies. And I think, I sat in one of the very first focus groups with you, down in the basement of the American Underground. And maybe you could just tell people a little of that story, what it was like being there in that small group, having this germ of an idea that, here we are at this festival.
This huge thing. So we started back in 2011, and it really came out of the need for my partner, Al Strong, to put on concerts where there wasn't a distraction. So a lot of jazz, and it's not just a Durham thing, but across the country, is usually background music, or you'll hear it when you're on hold, or when you're on the elevator.
Even with like Miles and stuff, you hear like the bustle of dishes sometimes in the background. Live album.
So it's a very social type of music, but there are people in this city who study it and teach it and have their own original compositions. So he wanted to put on more concerts. And so it's hard because you don't want to do it in an academic setting, because you do want people to feel relaxed and have a glass of wine or whatever. So we took over art galleries. And so we took over Labor Love.
Yeah. Yep. That was out in Golden Belt.
Yep. Yeah. And so we did that for about a year. And, people started coming every third Friday. And then from there, we wanted to get a little bit more organized. And so at the time in 2012, they did the SMOFIS contest.
In BU. That was in the window there. I remember Krista was in that window, wasn't she?
Yep. And so we didn't win it, but we did get a chance to be in the third Startup Stampede. And so that's where all the focus groups and the surveys and all of that research came from. It was a product of being in the Startup Stampede and Downtown Durham Inc. and American Underground really helping us fine-tune our idea of bringing this big music festival to downtown Durham. And so we're a nonprofit, and so it's our biggest program that we work on every year.
Sure.
And the whole point is to expand the audience for jazz. That's the mission. That's our goal. And we do it by having free programming, which the Durham Central Park programming is, and we have, free stage every day.
Free every day, people.
Free every day.
Every day. There's an
Right?
element that's free every day.
Right, but then there's also more accessible kind of crossover people that we put on the lineup, because we want our festival to be seen as a gateway to jazz.
Right.
This is not Newport or Montreux, where the performers are very academic,
exclusivity and high-end,
and more of the purists.
Right, and I mean, this comes right out of your focus group mindset, like from the very beginning. I think it's really interesting to hear underline that DDI and American Underground naturally are part of this element in the chamber, right? But that from the beginning, your thought was about inclusivity rather than exclusivity, and how is it going to work as a nonprofit, and how can we get, I think even the venues for you is a way in which you try and make it multi-level. It's not just that it's free, but there's all different levels of the experience that people can have. Yep. So you want to keep taking us through that timeline?
So then we won the pitch competition within Startup Stampede. So we're the only nonprofit in it, so that was a big deal, because the pitch was supposed to be, I think, won by a tech company, because you were supposed to give up equity and all of this stuff in exchange for all these goodies. Right. So we needed a website, and I know that sounds like really small time, but we didn't even have funds for a really nice website. Yeah. So that's what we won out of the pitch competition. Okay. But then my first pitch was to Michael Goodman at American Tobacco for the title sponsorship. And so when American Tobacco came on board, that really, gave us some legs. And they gave us opened a lot of doors in order to get the sponsorship dollars that we needed to launch the first one. And I don't know if we could have done this in another city. Right. Only because we didn't have any experience doing a festival. Right. I'm not a musician. I don't have a background in doing any of this, but I think the people that I pitched to really believed in the concept. Yeah. And even if they didn't understand it, we were very excited, and we had a track record leading up to of just doing cool, new, innovative things with artist participation and bringing a newer audience to performing arts. Right.
I mean, and that's the kind of outcomes now that we're getting. It's not just that it started there, but that's where we are. So on Saturday, we're going to start with Innovate Your Cool and all these educational programs. Right at the beginning of the day, you want to, I know Justin's right over on the front lines. He could probably give the briefing, but you want to tell everybody else a little bit about that and who's involved?
Yeah, so from day one, we wanted to not only highlight the best music, food, culture of Durham, but also underline that the backdrop is we have this amazing startup community. Right. So I think that's the missing piece. So what we decided to do, we couldn't do it in the first year. It was just way too aggressive. But the second year, we wanted to launch an innovation conference. So I've been to South by Southwest, I'm sure we all have, where there's this extra piece.
Some of us aren't.
We wish we'd been to South by Southwest. If anyone wants to sponsor the Clarion content to cover South by Southwest next year, we're looking for a title sponsor. Cicily can be our pitch person.
Right. So I went to South by Southwest, and there are these, TED Talks and product demos. Yeah. And, we thought that would be cool to be able to highlight, where we came from, which was the startup community. Right. But using the backdrop of people are coming here for music and improvised music and that sort of thing. So we decided to be able to tell the story of our headliners through this conference, to have more conversation around music technology through the innovation conference, and then weave in other, maybe social innovation talks and city planning talks and that sort of thing.
Yeah, those are all, there's a lot of crossover there between music, tech, innovation, being a startup, improvisation, like you said.
Yeah.
So.
I almost feel like there's jazz elements to running a startup.
Yeah.
Yes. Very bootstrappy.
Right, and having to be able to innovate and really think on your feet and respond to what other people are doing, you know, live. So I guess what's left? A headliner? You want to talk some about the headliner and the plans and all that, whatnot? I want to give Justin a chance to ask some music questions. I promised him I wouldn't dominate.
I got a few in my pocket, but I'll save them.
So our legendary headliner this year is Roy Ayers. He's a vibraphonist. Who he has, so some people probably be like, okay, vibraphone,
yeah,
what is that? I guess you remember like a xylophone or whatever from when you were in school.
Yeah, right.
But that's probably like the closest thing that most people would know. But he is what we call the godfather of neo soul. And so he's a very, crossover artist where he plays jazz in, jazz style. But a lot of his music was sampled by R&B and hip hop heads. From back in the day.
You guys were just talking about that. I don't know if that's in the pre or the on the camera, but who were we talking about right at the beginning that you were saying Roy Ayers covered? It was in
Mary J. Blige covered "Everybody Loves the Sunshine" with her song "My Life." And then Erykah Badu covered it in a live album, his song "Searching." Tribe Called Quest sampled a song by the name of Daylight in Bonita Applebaum. Pete Rock and C.L. Smooth used a lot of his samples.
I'm sure the list goes on.
Yeah, it goes on and on. And
awesome,
Ninth Wonder actually will be schooling everybody about it at the Innovation Conference on Saturday at American Underground. Yep.
Yeah.
And so Roy Ayers will also be here? Is that?
He'll be here. He'll perform on Friday night.
Okay. And where is that?
That will be at the Armory around about 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah, so we moved the main stage into the Armory.
I know the Armory has an amazing legacy too of people like who have played at the Armory over the years.
Yeah, a lot of the jazz greats used to come through there.
Yeah, I heard like Thelonious Monk and stuff.
Ella Fitzgerald used to come and play there.
That's got to feel really great from a legacy angle to be booking that. That's so cool.
Yep, it's awesome because we'll have, legends, living legends in there like Roy Ayers, but then also later on that evening, Robert Glasper will be there, who,
in the Armory.
In the Armory.
Okay.
Because we'll flip the Armory into what we call the Club Series later on for the late night show. So Robert is the headliner on Friday for the club portion of things at the Armory. And so he's, I guess, our modern day Herbie. I don't know, because he's...
Does he know that?
Does he know that? Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to compare him, but around here, you kind of have to let people give people a point of reference.
Right.
But just like Herbie was, classically trained as a jazz musician and has early albums that are very traditional, or he was a side man in very, purist traditional bands.
Oh, yeah.
He then crossed over in the 80s and late 70s into more his fusion age, and we know him from Rocket and stuff like that, the early days of MTV. So in the same kind of context, that's what Robert Glasper is doing today. He has 2 albums, Black Radio and Black Radio 2, that have both received Grammy Awards in the R&B category.
Okay.
So he's probably one of the, best next generation players that gets it. He meets people where they are in the R&B and hip hop realm, and then now he's going back to his roots, and he's bringing his trio instead of the experiment. And so hopefully he's doing kind of what we do, which is you hook them where they are, and then you reel them in back to a more traditional jazz setting. And so his next album will be a trio. It will be covering modern day songs, but it'll be in jazz style.
Right, and he's kind of an example of what you mentioned earlier about the crossover, kind of the fusion of expanding that audience. I know I'm really excited about Bad Bad Not Good coming, and they're kind of another, not quite as in the jazz realm that Robert Glasper is, but or at least not in the roots at least, but similar elements of fusion and crossover with hip hop artists. I know they did something with Ghostface Killah recently.
Right.
They cover a ton of hip hop songs on their
Right.
albums. So it's interesting to see some of these younger audience. I mean, they're 3 white guys from Canada,
Right,
And,
and,
you know,
they're very young. I saw them at South by Southwest,
Okay.
and the day party that we were at before then, no one was there.
Right.
It was just like really, into the music people, just a couple people, and then all of a sudden there were like these buses and kids were
Yeah,
coming, and
right.
then when they finally took the stage, it was packed,
Yeah.
and it was just these kids,
Right.
and I'm like, I've never seen anyone do that over, improvised music.
Right,
There was no
right.
one singing, there was
Yeah.
no one rapping.
Right.
It was just them playing,
Right.
and I was like, wow, if we ever did get a chance to get them,
Yeah.
I think they would be a really good kind of. We always put one kind of question mark.
Yeah.
It's not really jazz in
Right.
there. Last year was Thundercat.
right.
So this year, it's bad, not
Yeah,
good.
I think that's a good choice.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And I tell you, the list runs even deeper. If we had endless time, we would absolutely keep going with Cicily. Cicily, you want to help them out with some of the social media and where to find stuff online and get that kind of information?
Right. Everything you need to know is on our website. That's aocfestival.org. And then you can follow us on Twitter at the AOC Project.
We follow them.
Right. So THE Project.
It's all cool. AOC Project. And of course, if you want to follow our man Justin Laidlaw, he's at Buddy Rusky on Twitter. He has a fabulous Instagram as well. Isn't there a Tumblr where you're the mayor or something?
Yeah,
The
that
mayor?
hasn't been pretty active in a while, but
Who knows what future Buddy Rusky and Justin Laidlaw have. Cicily, we're so grateful to have you on.
Thank
Of course, the Clarion Content, we're on Twitter too at Clarion Content, our website at Clarion Content Media. Our good buddy Josh Hart on the other side of the camera doing yeoman work over there, setting up all this lighting early in the morning. Wouldn't believe how early in the morning it really is. It's
Right.
Cicily's cheery as heck. So get excited for the Art of Cool Festival, Durham. It's a ton of great music. There's so much also going on educationally, technologically. We really only gave you the tip of the iceberg, and didn't we tell you about like 3, 4, 5, 6 cool things you could do? So follow us on YouTube for more episodes like this. We're the Clarion Content. This is Sights on the City, and we curate your city, Durham.